I'm nervous about this project, but I'm excited for the end result.
My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. Alright, so last week was a huge success. We got primer in the cockpit and it looks awesome. We're moving on to a totally different project. So one thing I've dreamed about having in my own boat are what are called deadlights. And deadlights are windows in a boat that do not open. They let in a lot of light, make the boat feel a lot bigger. And so we are going to cut some deadlights into the boat that are in the hull sides. This may seem like a very frivolous project, but the point is not to get the boat in the water quickly. It's to build my dream boat to the highest standard within my own capabilities. It's something that I've always wanted to have in my own boat is some really nice looking deadlights. I'm pretty nervous about it because it is invasive surgery again, but I think it'll be well worth the time. I've really enjoyed the time I've spent on boats with windows in the hull sides. I find that they add a lot of light and, more importantly, space to the interior of the boat. So we are going to cut 8 deadlights into the boat, 4 on each side, 2 in the master stateroom, 1 in each quarter berth, and 4 in the main salon area. This is as many holes in the boat as we have real estate for, given the placement of the bulkheads and where the living space is in the boat. Now, we are not going to just cut some holes in the hull and slap on some windows. We'll get into the design and engineering that went into these next week. But basically, we're going to be building robust frames for permanently bedded acrylic lenses. I'm having a hard time deciding whether I should put the windows in line with the shear, parallel to the shear being the corner where the deck meets the hull. On most boats, that is like a curved line, whether it's a reverse shear where it's bowed like this, or spring shear where it's a U-shaped. Anyway, I could put the windows parallel with the shear, or I could put the windows parallel with the waterline. So the windows would be flat along the boat, and they would stay 3 feet above the waterline all the way down the boat. If I put them with the shear, it would be this black line, and you can see that the problem is the bow is taller than it is at the stern where the first or the most apt deadlight is. The window would not be parallel with the rest of the stuff in the boat. It's a little bit off kilter. But if I did it with the water line, that line is the top of the window, and it would be like this. So the window would be a little bit lower, be a little bit easier to see out of, and it would be parallel with everything else in the boat. It would be a little bit easier to make the windows parallel to the shear. What I just realized, I've been looking at boats all morning, looking at new boats, looking at old boats to see what everybody else did. This boat was built in 1989. Boats of that era, like specifically I'm looking at like the dash shoe boats, they did their windows parallel with the shear. New boats, modern boats, are all doing it parallel to the waterline. And so if I kind of went with the vintage of the boat, I feel like I should do parallel with the shear. So that's where I'm leaning right now. What do you think?
Who, me or our audience?
Everybody.
Oh boy. I guess I lean a little towards parallel to the shear. I like staying with the vintage of the boat. But I don't know. If it's slightly less work, that's another pro for parallel with the shear.
If we do it parallel with the water line, this window is like perfectly framed, which is nice.
That does look really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conundrum.
Maybe we should do the parallel to the shear on one side of the boat and parallel to the water line on the other side.
Why not? We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
It's our boat. No rules. Maybe there are some rules. We can't poll our audience because,
I need to make a decision like an hour ago.
yeah. So whatever your opinions are, y'all, too late.
Yeah. We decided to make the windows parallel to the shear. In order to accurately cut out all the windows, I made a few jigs that I'll use to route out the shape of the window. I'll cut the windows from the outside of the boat. My jig will guide the router in the shape of the window and it will hang from the shear, so every window will be perfectly in line with the rest. To find the placement fore and aft, I measured where I wanted the window on the inside of the boat based on where the bulkheads are and how I wanted the window framed. And then I drilled 2 holes through to the outside, which will line up the jig on the outside of the boat.
The hole is thick.
What do you think? We're just noticing how dry and perfect the construction of this hole is. It's like such a great example of sandwich core construction. So this is what made it a lot difficult to cut, is that yellow layer. There's the orange, and then yellow, and then the fiberglass and the foam. That yellow is Kevlar. So the whole bow is covered in a couple layers of Kevlar.
And what's Kevlar?
It is, I am very unfamiliar with it, but it's what they make bulletproof vests out of. So it's a super strong, impact resistant material. It's so much brighter in here already.
Yeah. Are you pleased?
So far. And a lot left to do. That was harder to cut than I thought it was going to be. On the starboard side, I had 3 more windows to cut, which took me the rest of the day. Yesterday I got all four on the starboard side cut out. I think they look awesome, especially from the inside of the boat. They were pretty tough to cut out. The glass is thick. The forward two have Kevlar I have to cut through. Now it's time to do the port side. So I'm gonna do the same four on this side.
Creepy.
So we've got all 8 windows cut, and they are doing exactly what we hoped that they would do, in that they're letting in more light. The space feels even bigger than it did before. It's going to be really a great vantage point to be able to see above the water from inside here. We're really happy with how they've turned out. Unfortunately, it's hard to capture on camera how much bigger it feels in here. Right now, all we've done is cut holes in the boat. There is a method to our madness, and we will show you next week how we're going to construct the actual window frames and be installing the windows in the boat. As far as the bowsprit, we obviously have not forgotten about it. We're letting the comments and input that we got sink in, and we'll be getting back to it in a few weeks.